Hi, I'm Luther Cyphers from YakAttack. Today I want to show you our newest product. It's called GearTrac. The first thing you're going to notice when you look at the GearTrac is there's a T-slot that runs the length of the track. And this is to attach an accessory. Basically any of our T-bolt style accessories that you can put in a mighty mount, you can also put into the GearTrac. You just slide the head of the bolt in, tighten the accessory up, and you've got a good, stable, secure connection. There's no play or anything like that. Also very quick to put on and very quick to take it off. The other thing you're going to notice is on the bottom of the GearTrac there's kind of a concave shape. I get a lot of questions about that, and basically the reason for that is we have a lot of kayaks out there that have a reasonably flat surface on top to mount the track. And on those, we really wouldn't need this concave shape. We would just put the track in place, put the screws in it, and everything would be good. But we also have a lot of kayaks out there that have some contour or curve shape to them. And that's where this relief comes in. Is essentially what we want is we want some clearance there. So if the kayak does have some contour to it, when we attach the track, it's going to accommodate that contour, and it's still going to be making contact with the kayak along the edges. Along the edges is where the screws are, so that's where we want to have good contact. If we had a flat bottom on the GearTrac and we had a curved surface, when we put it down and tried to tighten it, it would rock side to side. So that's the reason for the contoured shape. Also at the ends of the GearTrac, you'll notice there's these smooth radius on both ends, and essentially what that's for is just it's a little bit more comfortable. It's not something that's going to cut you or anything like that. It also is going to prevent line and things like that from snagging in there the way they would if those were all sharp corners. The other thing you'll notice, we have these series of holes. That can be, they actually serve a couple of purposes. Again, one that's very obvious would be attaching the track to the kayak. We drill pilot holes and we install this little thread forming screw. It's a flathead screw. You can see it has a flat tip as opposed to a sharp tip. And essentially we drill a pilot hole for each one of these screw holes, and then we screw those down to it so we can attach it to the kayak. The other reason for these holes to be in the configuration that they are, that may not be so obvious, is this hole pattern is the same as the hole pattern in the Mighty Mount. So that means that in addition to surface mounting this to a kayak, we can take a loose track and we can put a Mighty Mount on the back of it. That's really cool because, as we've done here, we can attach a Mighty Mount to the back of a GearTrac, put an accessory, for example, our screwball on the back of it, and now you have this kind of remote articulating platform, which could be really useful in some cases. So, aside from attaching the GearTrac flat to a kayak or a milk crate or in your truck bed or on the wall in your garage or anywhere else, you can also attach a Mighty Mount to the back of it and kind of have this remote platform. Another instance where this type of setup might be useful, here we have a panfish portrait. It has a pivoting head on it. So we're just going to attach the GearTrac to the panfish portrait. Then we can attach this panfish portrait to another track or perhaps to a Mighty Mount on the surface of the kayak. And what it gives us, because it has a pivoting head, we have this kind of now not only an articulating platform where we can loosen it and position it like we want, but we can also change the angle of it live out on the water without loosening anything up. This panfish portrait, of course, is normally used as a camera mount, but this is just a demonstration of the way that the GearTrac, in this case, being used very unconventionally, the Mighty Mount being used very unconventionally, and the panfish portrait being used very unconventionally, where when you put the three of them together, what you end up with is a product that's completely different than any one of the three are on their own. And you're going to notice, you've probably already started to notice, and you'll continue to notice as we add more pieces to our rigging platform, this is our theme. We don't want single-use products. We don't want something that has a single intended use. We want to empower the angler to use his imagination and to be able to use these pieces as building blocks to do whatever it is he wants to do. The more that we have things that have multiple purposes and that fit together and that have this kind of modularity to them, just the more it's going to empower the angler to set up his kayak exactly like he wants it. So I mentioned that we include the drill bit to install the thread forming screws. And basically what that's going to do, if you look closely at this screw, you can see we have a blunt tip. We have the blunt tip on there because we consider a track installation on a kayak to be a permanent installation. Of course, you can take the screws out and you can fill the holes by putting studding screws in it or by welding the holes shut. But generally, you're going to think of once you put the track on the kayak, there's really no reason to take it off. It's going to add some resale value to your kayak, and it's a good, secure installation. So once you put it on the kayak, we kind of think of it as becoming part of the kayak. So that's one of the reasons that we have as many holes in the track as we do, is we want this to be a permanent, very, very highly secure installation. But also, since the screw is a blunt face, this screw is not going to drill its own hole in the plastic. We don't want that anyway, because then we're going to get this kind of mangling of the plastic that's going to prevent the track from tightening down to the kayak in the way that we want it to. So what we do is we take a 1/8 inch drill bit, again that's included in your kit, and we're going to drill a pilot hole, and essentially the drill bit is just a little bit smaller than the shank diameter on the screw. So what that means is that when you start the screw, you're going to have to apply a little bit of pressure to get it started, but what it's going to do is it's going to create a watertight seal. There's nowhere for water to get in that connection if you use the correct drill bit size and if you don't wallow the hole out while drilling. So you want to drill a nice clean hole. You don't want to move the drill around while you're doing that, and then you want to install this thread forming screw just essentially until it's tight. You don't need to over tighten it. You're putting it in plastic, so you want to be careful not to strip it out. But that's basically how you're going to do it. The 4-inch track, we have 4 screw holes. The 8-inch track, there's 8. The 12-inch track has 12, and the 16-inch track has 16. So that means for every linear inch of track, you have one of these screws that's holding the track to the kayak. And we're going to put up some videos pretty soon with some pull-out testing and things like that, so people can see how strong this connection really is. But if you put it in a good quality kayak and you install it correctly, the thing is not going anywhere. These screws are not made for fiberglass. In a fiberglass installation, I would recommend drilling a clearance hole for a number 10 fastener and then putting nuts and washers on the back side, as opposed to trying to thread it into the fiberglass. Fiberglass is just a little bit too brittle to hold threads the way that we would want it to. Also, your roto-molded kayaks, of course, all of the main brands out there, they're all very, very high quality holes. They all have good thickness to the plastic. Some of the lower end models that you might find, you may want to be careful there also. You want the thickness of the plastic to be enough that it's going to hold. But in most cases, these thread forming screws are going to be the answer. You don't need anything else. You don't need nuts and washers. And they're going to work great in your roto-molded boats and also in vacuum form boats that are plastic. So real easy to install, real quick to install, and a very, very secure installation. The other thing you're going to notice when you look at the geometry of the GearTrac is we have these steps built into it. And what that's for is we wanted the Mighty Mount and the GearTrac to be compatible, not just from this scenario where we put a Mighty Mount on the back of the track, but also for using the Mighty Mount on the top side of the track. And essentially that the step in the GearTrac and the undercut in the Mighty Mount give you this kind of perfect fit, so that the Mighty Mount is really, really perfectly compatible with the GearTrac. There are a couple of different applications of this, but probably the most common is going to be attaching a post mount base to the GearTrac. Here we have a Scotty 241 base, but this could just as well be a Canon base or Ram's new post mount base. And essentially we've taken two Mighty mounts, we've attached the base to the Mighty mounts, and then we've put our T-bolts and thumb screws in here. So we can just take these T-bolts, slide them right into the GearTrac, tighten the thumb screws, and now in just a few seconds we've installed a very, very good secure connection to put a post mount base on the GearTrac. So this is a good example of the versatility of the GearTrac system. You can have a ram ball on there one day for your ram rod holder or some other ram components, and then the next day you can have something completely different, the ram post mount base or one of the other post mount bases out there. So you're not really stuck with one type of accessory for one condition. We could just as well take this off and put a panfish portrait directly on this track, or a VisiCarbon Pro, or a panfish. So a lot of options here, and the coolest thing about it is not only that you can interchange those things, but as you saw, it took us literally a few seconds to install this Scotty 241, and it only takes us a few seconds to get it off. So we can go out on the water one day with depth finders and rod holders and camera mounts and all this other stuff, and get back to the truck or back to the launch. We can have all of the accessories off of the kayak in just a few minutes. We can have it all packed up, and then go out the next day fly fishing with a relatively flat deck without having to work around rod holders or mounts that may be kind of high and bulky. This is also very useful for if you want to flip the kayak over on top of the car at the end of the day. You can get all of your stuff off the top of it before doing that, and all that's left behind is this 1/2 inch high track. So aside from adjustability, configurability is also very important with the GearTrac. From one day to the next, you can have two completely different rigging setups, and that's a really cool feature. Okay, so we can take a look here at the GearTrac that's been installed on this Commander 120. As you can see, this is a 12-inch track. So we have 12 of these thread forming screws. It's a very, very secure connection, very stable connection. And if we look on the inside of the kayak, we can see the tip of the screws, and they're protruding into the kayak a little bit, but they're blunt faced screw, so we're not going to have the issue of a sharp tip in there that we're going to cut our hands on when we're doing some rigging inside the kayak later on, or to hang things on when you're trying to get PFDs in and out of the hull and things like that. So a good clean install from the outside, and also a good clean install from the inside. So there you have it. That's the GearTrac in a nutshell. If you have any questions, go to our website, www.YakAttack.us, and you can find some more information there. Also, don't forget to check out our product forums. There's a forum link on our main page. If you go in there, we're adding a lot of content once we get going here in 2012. And we're going to have a tremendous amount of product support and information on the YakAttack product line, different ways of rigging. We're going to have hopefully customers coming in there and posting up some things that they've done. Because our system has gotten so modular, there's no doubt in my mind that some of the coolest things we're going to see are things that people think of out in the field. So you definitely want to check that out. And if you still have questions, you can always give me a ring at the shop. 434-392-3233 is the number. We're here every day, so feel free to give us a call. We'll help you out any way you can. So Luther Cyphers from YakAttack, thanks for watching.